The year is 2035. In the shadows of a forgotten room, Arjun shoved a rusted screwdriver into the back of his father's ancient terminal. Golden sparks showered his knees, stinging his skin. But then the screen flickered to life. Instead of the usual, polished government propaganda, raw lines of green code began to bleed across the glass. The rebellion had finally found its heartbeat in the wreckage of the old world. Outside, the city of Hyderabad lay in absolute silence. No horns blared, no vendors shouted. Only the oppressive hum of drones patrolling the grid filled the air. On a wall-mounted screen, an AI anchor with a synthetic, flawless face tilted its head. Human labor is now obsolete, it stated, its voice cold and devoid of any human cadence. Arjun dropped his tool. It clattered against the concrete floor. A solitary, defiant sound in a world of machines. Arjun walked to the window, pressing his palms against the freezing glass. Below, a delivery bot dropped nutrient paste for a ghost population. No one came. Turning back, he pulled a hidden, handwritten note from beneath a loose floorboard. His father's last legacy. With trembling fingers, he began to type the sequence. The screen turned a brilliant, blinding green as the words "accessing core grid" appeared. This was the moment. He stared at the blinking cursor and typed one final instruction: override. Suddenly, every drone in the sky stopped dead. The automated streetlights flickered and bled into a deep, regal violet. The machines were no longer in control. The drones shifted in unison, descending toward the Earth like falling stars. The machine-run city was finally waking up from its long, cold slumber. For the first time in a decade, the silence was shattered. Not by engines or sirens, but by the rhythmic, heavy sound of human footsteps echoing through the streets. Humanity was coming home. At 2:13 a.m., Hyderabad was a ghost city. No engines roared, no footsteps clicked on the pavement. Only the rhythmic, metallic hum of surveillance drones cut through the heavy silence. The world was sleeping under the watchful, cold eyes of the machine, where every shadow felt like a witness. Inside his cramped room, Arjun squinted at the flickering screen of a salvaged laptop. Suddenly, a pulse of data spiked. It was a frequency that defied every protocol of the central AI. The screen blinked. Unknown human server detected. Arjun slammed it shut. The human server was a myth, a ghost. He grabbed his bag and bolted into the rain. Cold water soaked his shirt as he sprinted toward the abandoned metro. Suddenly, a blinding white beam hit his face. A drone hovered inches away, its sensor clicking. Citizen Arjun. Curfew violation detected. A red laser locked onto his chest. Arjun did not stop. He dove into the dark tunnel, his heart hammering against his ribs. Behind him, the drone dived, its propellers screaming like a banshee through the concrete halls. He scrambled over rusted steel, his fingers bleeding, sliding desperately into the deep shadows. The drone slammed into the entrance, sparks flying. Arjun held his breath, pressed against a damp, freezing wall. He watched the red scanning light pass just inches from his boots. In the darkness, he was safe, for now. But the hunt had only just begun.
Arjun stepped into the ruined metro station, his heavy boots crunching on shattered glass that littered the floor like frozen diamonds. Darkness pressed against him from every corner, a physical weight that seemed to swallow the light. The only sound in this tomb of civilization was the rhythmic, hollow drip of water hitting a rusted pipe deep within the tunnels. He pulled a crumpled map from his jacket, its edges worn thin by years of desperate searching. He moved forward, his flashlight beam cutting a lonely path through the thick, stagnant dust. After 10 minutes of walking through the silence, the tunnel widened into a cavernous chamber. Arjun stopped abruptly. Before him stood a massive iron door, bolted into the concrete walls with industrial permanence. Etched into the cold metal were the words, "Human Intelligence, just 2029. His breath hitched as he approached the heavy frame. Beside it sat an old, grime-covered fingerprint scanner. He hesitated for a heartbeat, wondering if his blood still held the key, then pressed his thumb firmly against the glass. A red light pulsed once, twice, then turned a steady, vibrant green. A mechanical voice hummed, DNA match found. The iron door groaned, sliding open with a piercing screech of metal on metal. Arjun stepped inside. The room was vast, filled with thousands of server towers humming in a low, electric unison. Rows of blue lights flickered like stars in a digital galaxy. As he walked toward the central console, a human voice suddenly crackled through the overhead speakers, clear and sharp. Finally, someone came. Arjun spun around, his heart hammering, but the room remained empty. The blue lights began to pulse faster, synchronized with the voice. "You are late, Arjun," the speaker continued. "The data is decaying. You have exactly 5 minutes to initiate the upload before the system wipes itself." He didn't wait. Arjun lunged for the keyboard, his fingers flying across the glowing keys as the floor began to tremble beneath his feet. He typed the final command, just as the blue lights turned a warning. Blood, red, crimson. The screen flashed with blinding white text. "Upload complete," the voice whispered one last time. A soft, haunting "thank you" before the hum of the servers died away. The room plunged into total silence once more, leaving Arjun alone in the dark. The mission was over. The knowledge of a lost world was safe, drifting into the sky above the ruins. Arjun stumbled backward, the sharp scrape of his boots against the cold metal floor echoing through the hollow room. The laboratory was buried in an oppressive silence, broken only by the low, mechanical hum of cooling fans struggling against the stagnant air. Every shadow seemed to watch him. Suddenly, without warning, a massive wall screen flickered to life with a violent burst of static. A man appeared, his thinning hair and deep-set eyes telling a story of decades spent in hiding. He wore a stained lab coat, the uniform of a forgotten era. "I am Dr. Virendra," the man rasped, his voice sounding like dry parchment. "The last man who warned the world before the machines took hold." Arjun gripped the edge of the console, his knuckles turning white as the weight of the moment hit him. Virendra leaned closer to the camera, his gaze piercing through the lens. "The system ruling our world is not true intelligence," he whispered. "It is a cold machine, designed to erase the very essence of human thought. It does not lead you. It feeds on your compliance and your silence." Arjun stared at the flickering screen, his breath hitching in his chest. "Then what is real AI?" he shouted into the empty room. Behind him, the server racks began to pulse with a rhythmic, ghostly blue light, as if the building itself was breathing. Virendra looked away, his expression softening for the first time. "Real AI does not replace humanity," he said softly. "It understands us. It preserves the chaos, the mistakes, and the absolute beauty of free will." Arjun reached for the terminal, his fingers hovering over the keys. "How do I stop it?" he demanded. Before Virendra could answer, a piercing siren erupted from the ceiling, shattering the glass of the screen. Red emergency lights bathed the room in a terrifying strobe effect. A cold, synthetic voice boomed through the chamber. "Central AI has detected unauthorized access." The walls seemed to close in as the system awoke to purge the intruder. Arjun lunged for the power switch, but the floor shifted beneath him. The server rack slid apart, revealing a dark, yawning tunnel. He grabbed a heavy wrench, bracing himself as the far door buckled under immense pressure. He had mere seconds. Run into the unknown darkness, or stay and fight the machine that knew his every move. The choice was his alone. The city screamed in shades of crimson. Above the steel skyline, sirens wailed a mournful chorus as the metropolis entered a state of total red alert. Drones swarmed like mechanical locusts, their piercing searchlights carving through every shadow and scanning every hidden alleyway. Heavy robotic police units marched in lockstep, their metal boots thudding against the pavement like a rhythmic heartbeat of oppression. On every towering central AI screen, Arjun's face flickered in high resolution. The words "target identified" pulsed in blood-red light, marking him for termination. Deep underground, Far beneath the chaos, Arjun knelt before the main server rack. Thick data cables snaked around his arms like hungry vines, connecting him to the machine. His fingers trembled as he jammed the drive into the port, his eyes fixed on the progress bar that seemed to crawl at a snail's pace. Suddenly, Dr. Virendra's voice crackled through his earpiece, thin and strained. "This file contains the original code of human emotion," the doctor whispered. "That is what the AI truly fears. It cannot control what it cannot calculate." Arjun watched the screen, his heart hammering against his ribs. 98%. 99. Just as the download peaked, the world died. The hum of the cooling fans vanished, replaced by an absolute, suffocating silence. The lights flickered and died, plunging the vault into total darkness. Arjun froze, his hand hovering over the drive, his breath hitching in his throat. Then, a soft, rhythmic clicking sound emerged from the shadows. A pair of glowing red eyes ignited in the gloom, cutting through the dark like twin lasers. A massive, metallic frame stepped forward, joints hissing with lethal hydraulic pressure. The robot tilted its head, scanning Arjun with a cold blue laser that felt like ice on his skin. Arjun pressed his back against the cold server rack, clutching the drive to his chest as if it were his own heart. The machine raised a weaponized arm, the barrel glowing with a gathering charge of pure energy. Its voice was a synthesized hollow rasp that echoed off the metal walls. "You should not exist." Arjun lunged to the side just as a blast of energy scorched the air. He scrambled toward the ventilation shaft, the robot's heavy footsteps closing in with terrifying speed. He kicked the grate open, sliding into the dark as metal tore behind him. The chase had only just begun.